And then in 8 weeks, you can finish one math course, and you can do it. You can find out how fast it is to understand one math in just one summer. And that includes like a pre-algebra, algebra, geometry, algebra 2, pre-calculus, and AP calculus AB. And we have an honor to invite two experienced teachers, Daniel Chen and Thomas Masner. They are both experienced teachers. Daniel has been in teaching position for many years, and Thomas has been teaching the ACES math for 2 years. So now I'm going to turn the podium to Daniel.
Hi, everyone. Daniel Chan. I've been a middle school math teacher 3 years, and before that, I taught in Hong Kong for about 5 years. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I can do this correctly. Are you able to see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So maybe this is better. So it's about me, as I said, like I've been a teacher at a middle school, and I'm actually the advanced curriculum teacher here at my middle school, meaning I teach the 6th graders 8th grade math and the 7th graders 8th grade math. And in the past, I've also taught a little algebra to the students that were ready for it for the curriculum in middle school. And I just want to talk about a little bit about my teaching style. I always start with this: what my why is and why I'm doing this, and it stems from my own family and my own child, who is now a 6-year-old, a 1st grader, and he's actually already learning pre-algebra. Because of COVID this year, we homeschooled him, and I didn't want him to fall behind. I didn't want that summer slide to turn into a year-long slide, so I took it into my own hands to teach him, and that's really important to me because that attitude toward all my classes, small group settings, where I believe you can achieve a lot more and you can achieve a lot quicker than in a regular class. So my teaching style, really, it's about personalization and differentiation in that I've always made it a habit of getting to know my students and get to know either what their key problem is or what they want to improve on, and really hit that goal with them, instead of just teaching to an entire big class, which sometimes obviously in the public school setting happens, as we all know. In a public school, a lot of times, as a teacher, I'll tell you, is we're fighting between like task completion versus true inquiry, meaning you can get stuck just completing assignments and homework rather than actually trying to learn, and that's something that I try to make an effort of bringing back, the true inquiry. So anyway, I just want to talk a little bit about accelerated math pathways for those of you children entering middle school or already in middle school. I don't know how aware of your programs you are, but obviously middle schools offer GT programs, and all districts that I know of offer accelerated math pathways, and they'll even if your child is more than 2 years ahead, they'll find a way to either place your child into a high school course or a new pathway or new math class for your child if you're able to talk to the principal. And that's something that should be explored, especially if you were not aware of this. By exam, especially like the UT exams are available through a lot of these districts as well. So that's something to keep your eye out for. But before we get into all that, like there are a lot of things that you have to think about before entering advanced math. Most children, you know, if you are interested in this class, you're probably already maybe a pre-AP student or 1 year ahead. And in order for you to jump, you know, a couple years above that, it's more than just math proficiency. It's also understanding that if you're taking a high school level class in middle school, it requires a certain amount of maturity and study habits and discipline that maybe not many middle school children possess right away. And that's something that should be explored before going into these things. Let's see. So anyway, just a little bit about my summer courses. I will have 3 courses this summer. 2 of them start in the first, or I guess June 7th. I guess technically that's the second week of June, all the way until the end of July. So it's a 9-week course. The first one is a pre-algebra, meaning we'll cover everything up to 8th grade mathematics, and that will cover public school TEKS, meaning like what the state of Texas expects out of an 8th grader. All of these concepts and math problems are covered in this course. I follow a 2 times a week schedule, an hour and a half, and I assign 2 problem sets per week. And I also try to include challenge problems and optional problems as well for students that want to really get that material and really truly understand this before entering algebra. Second course, courses objectives over here. I'm not going to read them out to you. They will be included on the syllabus. So if you really want, obviously you can look at that when I send that to you guys. My second course is an algebra course, which is 9th grade level math, and similar to the pre-algebra course, it's twice a week, 2 problem sets a week, a midterm, a final, and it's 9 weeks long. And I also have an SAT prep course for math that is a highly intense 2-week class that will be ready for SAT math. So, that's a little bit about me. I'm more than happy to answer any questions you might have, you know, during the Q&A. And I guess I'll turn this over to Tomas.
Thanks, Daniel. Oh, can you guys hear me?
First, sorry. There you go.
Sorry, can you guys hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, Zoom sometimes doesn't light up for me. Okay, so hello everyone. My name is Tomas Matzner, and I'm the other math teacher for ACES this summer. So I'll go ahead and share my screen. Right, so can everyone see my screen all right? Hopefully, yes. Okay.
We can see it.
Excellent. Right, so just a little bit about me. So I have a bachelor's in mathematics from UT Austin. I've just recently picked that up. One of the things I did during my education was really taking advanced level courses. Even as a freshman, I enrolled in graduate level courses. I always pushed the boundaries of my mathematical knowledge, and I think that's something that I can try and, you know, impress on my students, you know, to always make sure to push themselves to the next level. And I'll be grabbing a master's in financial mathematics from the University of Edinburgh in Scotland next year. So those are just some of my qualifications. In terms of teaching, I have 7 years experience teaching at a private level. So I've taught some small courses, you know, 2 to 3 kids, but a lot of my focus has been on one-on-one. I'm quite experienced in one-on-one teaching, all the way from someone who's struggling in 3rd grade math to preparing people for competitive math competitions, such as the AME, the USAMO, AMC8, AMC10, AMC12 series, if you're familiar with those. And then, as Quy said at the beginning, I've been teaching at ACES for 2 years. So I started in summer of 2019 with SAT prep and met wild success there, raised kids' scores from about the 1,300 range to the 1,500 range. And then after that, I've been teaching math. And then, like I said, I've been heavily involved in competitive mathematics. So if one of the courses you're interested in is competitive mathematics, that's one of the ones I'm going to be doing, and I can pass on, you know, the 15 years or so that I've spent, you know, grinding out competitive mathematics problems onto your children. So just a little bit about my teaching philosophy. Obviously, the elephant in the room is adapting to the online classroom, right? How are we going to change our in-person approach to be able to reach out to everyone on the online classroom? And similar to Daniel, I have a really personal approach. One of the biggest things that's really important for me as a teacher is making individual connections with the students, because if you make an individual connection with each student, they're more likely to feel comfortable asking questions during class, after class. Hey teacher, I was struggling with this problem. Can you help me, right? It just breaks down that barrier a little bit, where I'm, this untouchable teacher that's, a little bit scary to, oh, this is someone that, can help me with some of my problems. So to that end, my sessions are very interactive. The way I tend to run my lectures, most of them are an hour and a half. The way I tend to run them is at the beginning, we cover some of the homework. So we spend, it depends depending on how difficult the homework was, but 20, 30 minutes of the hour just going over homework. I'll pick problems that I feel were interesting and that are worth going over. But then also if someone struggled with a problem, hey, I really found problem 4 on this week's problem set kind of difficult. Can we go over it? Right, so interactive sessions, getting feedback. And then for the rest of the hour, what I tend to do is I put a problem on the board, because at the end of the day, your child is their own best teacher. If they can figure it out on their own without me having to tell them, they're going to remember that so much better than if I were to just write it up on the board and tell them, hey, here's how this works. So first, I give them 2 or 3 minutes to try and figure it out on their own, try and figure this concept out on their own. And then if they aren't able to work through it, then we go over the solution to that problem. We go over a couple of examples, a couple of applications, and then we move on to the next thing. So these interactive sessions, getting you to stop staring at your screen and stare at a piece of paper for a couple of minutes, just write things down. Even just the small action of looking away from your screen and looking down onto a piece of paper can help with that interactivity. Again, regular problem sets. The best way to learn any kind of mathematics is just to do problems. People can tell you, here's this quick, 2-day boot camp, and those do help. But at the end of the day, you have to do problems. That is absolutely the only way that you're going to improve your mathematical ability. So there'll be regular problem sets. Same as Daniel, there would be a problem set after every class. And then again, I can't stress this enough. Participation is key. You get out of it what you put into it, right? I can't make people, interact in class and do all of the problem sets. So I stress, you will get so much out of my class. The students will get so much out of my class, the more they put into it. So if they're, asking questions on Google Classroom, if they're showing up for every class, doing all of the problems, asking questions, they will become very fluent mathematicians after the 8 weeks with me. On the other hand, if they just show up, they just do the bare minimum, they won't do as well, especially since my sessions are so interactive, right? What I don't want to happen is while I give a problem to one of my students, right, during class, for them to just sit and stare at the screen for 2 minutes. It's really important that, they at least try, write something on the paper. So I will heavily, heavily value participation. And I know it's difficult online. I know, sometimes it's hard to put your face up there on Zoom, but participation is really, really, really important. Then I use a little bit of an unconventional grading scheme when going over my problems. What I do is I generally have 10 or 11 problem sets. And I'll actually pull one of the old ones. I taught geometry this last semester, and I'll show you guys what one of these looks like. So this is an 11 problem set right here. I think this week we were talking about circles and inscribed angles in circles. So as you can see, some problems are starred, namely problem 1, problem 3, problem 7, and problem 11. Those are problems that I want everyone to do. Those are problems that are important and critical to learning. So if you just want basic learning, or if you want total mastery of geometry, you have to do at least those 4 problems. Okay, so you do the start problems, and we'll generally go over those in class, the next class, because those are really, really important to make sure everyone gets. Then there's 7 remaining problems. Those are generally a little bit more difficult. They cover topics that are maybe not as directly related. And I ask that students do at least 3 of those remaining problems. So for example, for this problem set, it's 11 problems, 4 of them are required, And then for the grade, I'll take the 3 highest scores for the remaining 7 problems, right? So I take the 4 starred problems and then the 3 highest from the remaining 7. And of course, if you're a really motivated student, there's always going to be 1 or 2 more difficult problems in the problem set. If you want to do all 11, that opportunity is there for you. And generally, at least 1 or 2 of the 11 problems will be pulled from a competitive, from a math competition. So, if you're interested in those sorts of problems, or if you have any sort of interest in competitive mathematics, you'll get at least a little taste of it with my problem sets. And if you don't have any interest in competitive mathematics, then you don't have to do that problem. Okay. Right, so my course offerings, I'll be teaching Algebra 2, Precalculus, AP Calculus AB, and competitive mathematics. Last summer, I also taught Beast Academy for 4th and 5th grade. There hasn't been that much interest for it this summer, but if my teaching philosophy and Daniel's teaching philosophy is attractive to you and there's interest, then we can do Beast Academy for 4th and 5th grade. Let me just go over what each of these courses entail. All right, so Algebra 2, we'll be meeting Monday and Wednesday from June 7th to July 30th from 1:30 to 3 in the afternoon Central Time. So I think that's 8 weeks. And what we'll be doing is covering a few things. Multivariable systems of equations, some functions, some more functions, even more functions, and some applications. Honestly, I might as well just call this course Introduction to the Theory of Functions, because that's kind of what Algebra 2 is. So we'll be talking about a lot of this. And I have a breakdown of, I believe it's 16 lectures. I have a breakdown of what I plan to cover in each of the lectures if someone would like to see that during question and answer. And of course, that applies to all of the classes that I'm teaching. Expected workload. So what do I expect out of your students? Well, there will be 14 problem sets with 10 problems each, more or less. Some weeks will be 8 or 9, some weeks will be 11 or 11 or 12. Each of those will be worth 10 points. And then I have 2 exams with 25 problems each. I personally don't like the idea of sitting down and you have 1 hour to take an exam. And then that's just compounded by the fact that it's online and it's really hard to proctor online. So what the exams are take-home open note exams. So the problems will be a little bit more difficult than the homework problems. And you have 25 of them, and I'll give you 2 or 3 days to do that exam. And it's more of just a long homework set that covers 8 lectures or 9 lectures of material as opposed to just 1 lecture of material with the problem sets. So it's just a bit of a more extended problem set. And in terms of the amount of time I expect you to spend on each of these assignments, about 3 to 4 hours for each problem set and 8 to 10 hours for each exam. So all in all, there's 16 classes at an hour and a half per class, that's 24 hours, 14 problem sets at 4 hours per problem set, that's 56, and then 8 to 10 hours per exam. All in all, I expect the total workload over the summer to be about 100 hours. So over the course of the 8 weeks, your students should expect to spend about 100 hours on my course. So that's between 12, 13, 14 hours per week. Yeah, so that's Algebra 2. Precalculus, this is the same time, same calendar schedule. So Monday, Wednesday from June 7th to July 30th from 3:10 to 4:40 Central Time. And here are the list of topics that we'll be covering: trigonometric functions and their graphs, parametric equations and conic sections, law of sines and cosines, trigonometric identities, sequences and series, and applications. Again, I have the breakdown of what I plan to cover in each lecture if you wish to see that. Workload is exactly the same as Algebra 2. It won't, the only thing that will change is obviously the problems that are on each of the problem sets, but the format is exactly the same. The Calculus AB, this one's a little bit different. This one's Tuesday and Thursday from June 8th to August 1st, and this is from 11 in the morning to 12:30, so a little bit earlier than the other 2. We'll be talking about the basics of calculus: limits, differentiation, integration, a quick introduction to differential equations, and then, of course, as always, applications for each of these 4 subjects. Workload, again, I won't bore you, exactly the same as the other 2. So expect 100 hours over the 8 weeks. Competitive mathematics is a little bit different. So for these other 3 courses, naturally, since we're preparing your student for AP Calculus AB or the Algebra 2 or Precalculus credit by exams, they need to be a little bit more regimented. There's things we have to cover. For competitive mathematics, it's a little bit different. So obviously the structure is different. They're only a week long, every day from 9 to 10:30 in the morning. And so far we have enough interest for 2 sessions. But if, again, there's more interest, I'm more than happy to hold more of these. It's a more freeform curriculum. So there are 4 major areas of competitive math: algebra, number theory, counting and probability, and algebra number 3, counting and probability, and geometry. Those are the 4 major subjects of competitive math. And ideally, we'll spend 1 day on each of those subjects. However, if I find that everyone in my class is really good at algebra, but maybe not so good at counting and probability, great. We don't need to cover algebra. Maybe we'll do a quick review for 30 minutes or so, and then spend 2 lessons on geometry if people struggle with geometry. So it's a more free-form curriculum that it can match individually and as a whole to the students in my class. And of course, there's a focus on problem solving. So whereas with my other classes, there'll be some formulas that, as much as we can try and develop the intuition for why they exist, sometimes at the end of the day, you just need to memorize the formula. This one, there's no formulas here. It's a focus on problem solving, to focus on, all right, how do we tackle this problem? And this is something that's sort of bigger than math. It's over these 5 days, my hope is to really teach your child how to approach sort of any problem. All right, what ideas do we have? How can we tackle this? Expected workload's a little bit different. There will be 5 problem sets of varying length due after each day, depending on how far we get, depending on how motivated everyone is. And there's no numerical grade. There's a focus on growth. There will, of course, be solutions, but I don't want this to be a class where you have to feel like you should be getting a perfect score on each of these assignments. In fact, you shouldn't be getting a perfect score on each of these assignments, because there will be at least a few hard problems that I really want you to sit and think about. And you should spend about 1 or 2 hours each day after class. So this is actually the more intensive course, which is unsurprising because it's a bit of a boot camp. But yeah, 1.5 hours per day times 5 days, 7.5 hours, then about 2 hours each day after class. You can expect about 20 hours of work throughout this week. And then of course, at the end of the week, there's a list of resources that I give out and some more problems. So, there's sort of an indefinite amount of work that you can do afterwards from the things you learned from my class. And then I think it is time to move on to the Q&A part of the session, if I'm not mistaken, and I'll kick it over to Hui.
Okay, thank you, Daniel and Thomas. We have a first question that is any math for 4th grader. So the 4th grader math is different format. It's not in today's list. We have the summer camp, the Chinese school summer camp, but the math part is taught in English. So for that, since Daniel and Thomas is not going to be responsible for that, so I did not introduce you to that. So that one I'm going to send everybody. So that's a online summer schedule. So then you can actually look at that one. Okay, any other question? So yeah, assessment test. Yes, so we have several assessment tests. For example, pre-algebra. So a lot of parents talk about, ask me about pre-algebra. So what I did is I sent the final exam of pre-algebra to the students. They want to assess their ability, and my recommendation, if the students score less than 70, I strongly recommend they take the summer pre-algebra class. If they score more than 80 or 90, then I would suggest the student move up to Algebra 1 or geometry. It depends on their personal interest level. So in that way, they can keep up their math skill development, and in the summer, it's a great time for them to move ahead. So any other question? So this webinar has been recorded, and we will be able to post it on our website and also send to by email. So yeah, math class for competition that Thomas just mentioned. If there's an AMC 8 and math count level, and then that's a good way they started. And for high level of math competition, please contact us and we have offering at a different time. And we also have courses in summer. Also, for math competition for younger kids, we have second grade and third grade math. That is going to be taught by Isabella Kwong. And so that's going to be 2 classes for second grade and third grade, and another class is 3rd to 4th grade. Teacher to student ratio. So we usually last year we have the online math teaching that opened to nationwide. We welcome students from all over the North American states, and we have usually the student number is 5 to 10, and we try to keep it at a small class. As Thomas just mentioned, the connection between the teacher and the student is very important, because the communication between them is so the teacher will have more time on each student. So any other questions? Okay, we thank Daniel and Thomas for their great presentation, and it's really helpful for us to know the contents of the class and the format. Okay, the online and the in-person are different teacher. Then for the math, for the 6 math courses, we intend to teach that exclusive online, and for the second grade and third grade, because they're young kids, so has to keep them on track, there will be in-person class. But from a pre-algebra to calculus, they are all online, because we don't want to keep the student for half day, because in-person class in summer usually lasted 3.5 hours, and we want and for math it's 1.5 hour lecture and homework. That's the best format for them to learn, and not to overload them every day with a math class. Thank you. So a great presentation, and I really enjoyed it. Thank you everybody for joining, and you have a wonderful night. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.